Now let's go to our next section, serious questions on hermeneutical consistency. Hermeneutical means principles of interpretation. Interpreters of the book of Revelation, I found in my studies, are frequently inconsistent in the way in which they interpret the book. For example, the historicist method teaches that the churches and the seals begin when? In apostolic times. Ephesus is the apostolic church, right? And in the seals, we teach the white horse is the church that goes out conquering and to conquer, the apostolic church. So the series begins in apostolic times and ends when? When Christ sets up his everlasting kingdom. This being the case, why does Uriah Smith and other interpreters say that the trumpets begin in the 4th century with the barbarian invasions? Are you catching my point? Secondly, some Adventist interpreters believe that there is a dual fulfillment of the trumpets, one past and the other future. However, is there such a thing as dual fulfillments in chain prophecies? Are there 2 fulfillments to the churches? No. Are there 2 fulfillments to the seals? No. Are there 2 fulfillments to Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 and Daniel 8 and 9 and Daniel 11? No. In chain prophecies, you have how many fulfillments? You have 1 fulfillment in chain prophecies. Another question. Were the barbarian invasions of such historical importance that you needed 4 trumpets to describe the barbarian invasions? That's what Uriah Smith does. Furthermore, those who interpret the trumpets as a depiction of the barbarian invasions and the growth of Islam and Turkey are many times inconsistent in the manner in which they interpret the symbols. Sometimes they take the language literally, and other times they apply the language symbolically. There's an inconsistency in the method of interpreting the symbols. Finally, at the top of page 7, for those who see the rise and fall of Islam and the role of Turkey in the trumpets, one must ask, where in other prophetic lines of prophecy do you find a mention of Turkey or the Muslims? Are they in Daniel 2? Are the Muslims and Turkey in Daniel 2? No. Are they in Daniel 7? No. Are they in Daniel 8 and 9? No. Are they in the series on the churches? No. Are they in the series on the seals? No. Are they in Daniel 11 and 12? No. Are they in Revelation 12? No. Are they in Revelation 13? No. So to insert the Muslims and Turkey into the trumpets simply is a reflection of a view that was held by Uriah Smith, who introduced this view into the Adventist church. And by the way, I'm not demeaning the work of Uriah Smith. You can read his commentaries. His commentaries on Daniel and Revelation are very good. But he did not have all the light on the trumpets. He did not have all the light, particularly on the Battle of Armageddon. He believed that, the king of the north is Turkey and the drying up of the Euphrates was literal. So I think he was wrong in his interpretation of Daniel 11, Revelation chapter 16. That doesn't mean that everything that he wrote is not trustworthy. Ellen White recommended that his books be read. So I'm just mentioning that the difficulties that we have with his particular interpretation of the trumpets. Now, we're on page 7, Introduction to the Trumpets. We begin by asking the very important question, are we to understand the trumpets from a futurist or from a historicist perspective? Seventh-day Adventist theology has traditionally interpreted the churches, the seals, and the trumpets from a historicist perspective. However, in recent times, there has been a tendency among some Seventh-day Adventist interpreters to interpret the trumpets from a futurist perspective. And probably the person who has popularized this the most is Marvin Moore, who for many years, I don't know if he still presently is, but was editor of Signs of the Times. As regard the trumpets, as I was mentioning at the beginning this morning, There are two futurist schools of thought in the Seventh-day Adventist Church today. One school sees the fulfillment of the trumpets in post-probationary time, that is, after the close of probation. The other school sees their fulfillment as future from our time, but occurring during probationary time, before the close of probation. Marvin Moore belongs to this second group that believes that the trumpets will be fulfilled shortly before the close of probation. I believe that the futurist school commits two mistakes in their interpretation of the trumpets. First, they often literalize the symbolic language. They speak about meteorites and, falling from heaven literally, and asteroids falling upon the earth, but when the Bible speaks about a falling star, you need to see what the Bible interprets the falling star as. Not just think that it's a meteorite or an asteroid. We have to let the Bible interpret its own symbols. So first, they often literalize the symbolic language, and second, they fail to do a serious study of the literary arrangement of the book of Revelation. You see, the literary structure of the book of Revelation is the skeleton that holds the whole book together. And if you don't have a skeleton, you have a jellyfish that moves here, there, and everywhere. Many scholars, now here's an important point. Many scholars have concluded that the book of Revelation follows the sequential order of the Hebrew sanctuary. In other words, it's structured around the Hebrew sanctuary. In the series of the seven churches, Jesus is walking where? Among the candlesticks. In the series on the seals, Jesus has moved to where? To the table of the showbread. Now, if you want to more on that, you would have to study the series that I did on the seals. There's a 2-volume set of study notes on the seals. In the series on the trumpets, where is Jesus ministering? We just read it a few moments ago. At the altar of incense. And in Revelation 11:19, Jesus moves where? He moves to where the Ark of the Covenant is. So you have this sequence actually the book of Revelation begins in chapter 1 with the sacrifice of Christ, with the death of Christ. He redeemed us through His blood. He was dead, and yet He's alive, so it begins actually with His work on earth. Then you have the candlesticks, then you have the table of showbread, then you have the altar of incense, then you have the opening of the most holy place, and then you'll notice in the next paragraph, then in chapter 15, verses 5 through 8, the sanctuary ministration closes. The temple is filled with smoke. Nobody can enter because the intercession of Christ has ended. And then in Revelation 16 through 19, you have a description of the 7 last plagues. Chapter 20, you have the scapegoat ceremony. And chapter 21 and 22, you have the new heavens and the new earth. Does Revelation have a sanctuary structure? It most certainly does. It follows the order of the sanctuary. So if you extract the trumpets and you put them in the future, what happens? The sanctuary structure of the book is interrupted. So you have to realize that the trumpets fit within a certain time period, which is the period of the intercession of Christ in the sanctuary. Is this point clear? So extracting the trumpets from the legitimate context and inserting them into the future destroys the beautiful sanctuary symmetry of the book. And if you want more on the sanctuary symmetry of the book, if you have the book God Cares by C. Mervyn Maxwell, my teacher in the seminary, you'll find a beautiful description of the sanctuary symmetry of the book of Revelation.